What's up, guys? Welcome to the Konquer podcast. My name is Chad Kratz. This is Mr. Jeff Brandt. Good morning. Happy Sunday. It is Sunday, right, Jeff?
It is Sunday.
Okay, so making sure I know what day it is. Today, we're going to talk about, I just noticed we're both sitting here with our nerd cups. You Dragon Ball Z and me, Captain America over here. So we had talked a little bit about, kind of, again, my methods and how I kind of approach things and some things that I picked up over the years. But to narrow that down, why is resistance training, in my opinion, king? Right? And I think you've kind of adapted some of that same methodology as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. In
your, let's say, tenure here at Konquer Fit. It's been tumultuous.
Yeah.
We've had our ups and downs here with, we could say your health and that kind of stuff that's
absolutely
derailed you a little bit, but not derailed you in the most part. So again, why is resistance training king?
Yeah, it's funny. You actually just sent me a clip, and I can't remember who it was, but it was an Olympic runner and a personal trainer. I forget the guy's name for Mind Pump.
Oh, I think it was Sal.
Yeah, Sal.
Yeah.
And he was asking that individual who was an Olympic runner, what do you think's more effective at burning fat?
Yeah.
Running or resistance training?
Well, I think, and if we quote it correctly, it was running, resistance, or cardio, resistance training with cardio, or resistance training alone.
Yeah. And the individual's like, well, I might be a little biased, but for me, it's running, right? And he's like, wrong. Try again.
Statistically, the best, independently in and of itself, is resistance training. Now, that might be marginal to resistance training combined with cardio.
Yeah.
Because that also is still beneficial. We still have to do cardio. Nobody's demonizing cardio.
No, not at all.
There's a dosage problem there. But when we look at standalone, resistance training is the most beneficial to keeping fat off of the body long term.
Yeah.
Right? I recently had you, well, we don't really read. We listen to audiobooks. We listen. But I recently had you kind of dive into the resistance training revolution.
Yep.
And you did that a little bit.
Yeah.
So
still going through it. I forget the author's name. Steven Stefano?
Sal DiStefano.
Whatever. He's not going to watch this podcast, so we're okay there.
They have millions of followers.
But yeah, what's interesting is that when you start that book, he does a really good job about kind of what you said. He's not out there bad-mouthing everything else. He's not telling you to not, if that's what you enjoy, that's what you enjoy. But he's breaking down more the science behind why resistance training is key to burning weight, right, or burning fat, sorry. And how to, maintain it. So I'm probably halfway through the book. Right?
Okay.
Listening to it on my drive here from work every day. So very interesting. I need to go back and listen to a few chapters because he spots off a lot of statistics and
a ton.
That's what I love. I love stats, right? So I need to go back and listen to a few of those because I'm very interested in just kind of more or less how he came about some of those and some resources. But for what I've been doing, not only with you, for the last almost 3 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be 3 years.
Coming up on 3.
And then previously when I was on my own, it's always been more resistance-based for myself, right? I've never done much cardio, but now I do a little bit of cardio, especially on the weekends and whatnot. But it was just definitely an eye-opener to hear him talk, or I guess talk. I didn't read it like you said. I don't fucking read.
Yeah. Reading's hard,
right? So, but yeah, he definitely gives a lot of great information, and I think for anybody that's having that internal struggle about whether it's this type of gym or that type of gym or how I should start, what I should start doing, that's a great read, right? And it's not necessarily a long read. Like I'd hoped to have been through it by now, but like I said, I'm just listening to it on my drive from work, right? So
if you're anything like me, I listen to books at like 1.5 times speed anyway.
Yeah. So I would like to, like I told you, I got to listen to it again because there's a lot of stats in there that like.
Yeah, he throws a lot at you as far as, like you said, statistics on comparisons between cardiovascular training, resistance training, HIIT training, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I think the real thing that's to take away from that is, why is resistance training so good at keeping fat off the body long term? Well, muscle is the most metabolic tissue in the body. It requires calories to be maintained, and protein and macronutrients and things like that as well. But your body's first diversion away from when you're crashing your calories out is like, okay, let's get rid of the muscle because it's burning too much calories. Yep. I still gotta make sure your brain function is sound, your heart keeps pumping.
Gotta maintain the system, man.
All the cells keep doing what they're supposed to do. So that's truly why resistance training is the best for longevity. Not only is resistance training the best for fat loss, but it's also the best for maintaining movement and stability, right? If the muscles are strong and if they're moving well, full range of motion, resistance training, and everything is moving well, that's what keeps me quote unquote young.
Yeah.
Right? We're all seeking this fountain of youth. Well, the fountain of youth is right in front of us. It just takes hard work to maintain the fountain of youth. It's not just drink it and it's gone, right?
Yeah. Life's a terminal disease, no matter how you look at it, right? So until they can take your brain out and put it into a jar and you're in a different body, we're all going to die at some point.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, how do you maintain that mobility for as long as you can, right? And so it's funny because I forget what chapter, but he's talking about, and he's not trying to put a dig at anybody, but he's like, let's say you had to choose between going out and running a 3K, 5K, or going to the gym and getting a workout in.
Yeah.
Which one do you think you feel better after, right?
Yeah.
And I'm reading that, and I'm like, damn. And I'm not a runner. I mean, look at me, folks. Like, I don't run. Like, my cardio is not running, right? My cardio is on a treadmill, walking at a decent clip at an incline, right? But nonetheless, I think that speaks volumes because, believe it or not, I used to be a runner.
Yeah.
I used to love, like, running long distances, and long distances for me at the time, like, most is 5 miles. I used to love that.
Well, not only that, you were a basketball player at one point, so that's up and down, running up and down the court.
But I can tell you, every time after I would go for a run compared to getting a lift in, it wasn't the same. Right?
No.
The endorphins definitely weren't like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I get a lift in. I'm like, and even right now with my restrictions, like even today, just doing a couple of things, like I think I put 90 pounds on the leg press, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that felt fucking great.
Yeah.
Right? And I can tell you, sitting on my ass right now doesn't feel the best, but nonetheless, right?
But I think too that you look at why that's true, right? And because I do know some people that they do get that endorphin rush from running. I just don't.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing with that too, I think it's with resistance training, with cardiovascular training, I think it's all a dosage thing. Mm-hmm. And I think, you and I being quote unquote weightlifters, again, not weightlifters professionally or anything like that, but because not to take away from those guys, but before me learning all of the stuff that I learned in my undergrad degree and from training for, almost a decade now and all that kind of stuff, I think what I've learned the most is like, I think before I was in this mentality of like, you have to go hard as you possibly can and be dead by the time you leave the gym. If you aren't dead by the time you leave the gym, you didn't do anything. And I think that's the biggest thing I've shifted around. Like I'll leave 2 to 3 reps in the tank and I feel really good when I leave the gym. I can still tackle my day. Like, and I'm speaking on behalf of me. Like that aspect for you is entirely different. That aspect for a guest we had on, a week ago is totally different. You guys have 3 kids.
Yeah.
You've still got to go home and be dad and husband and caregiver and, provider and all this stuff. So you can't blow it all out at the gym and then go, yeah, I'm going to go home and just go to sleep on the couch because I'm wiped. Mm-hmm. Like, no, like you've got to go to your daughter's basketball games and sit there for 6 hours. Like that to me, like I would rather leave feeling better and constructed than destructed from a workout.
But along those same lines with the resistance training, it's not about necessarily the weight, right?
No, it's control of weight and space.
Yeah. So I mean, and I said this a couple episodes ago. I need to actually do it because I have tons of videos on my phones between the two of them. I need to post them on Instagram, but I can't lift heavy weight right now.
No.
Right? And even if I wanted to, it would be a struggle because I still have some things that aren't moving quite the same. But nonetheless, like I was doing bench yesterday, right? And I think my last set I had 70 pounds on the bar. Right?
Yeah.
So 70 pounds total, including the bar.
Yep.
Right? And so I was doing a set of 15, and I mean, I got up and I'm a sweater, and I can tell you I was sweating because I was trying to control it down, trying to figure out where my lats engaged, where was my leg drive. So like, it's not necessarily just how much weight can you push, it's how are you controlling that weight, and are you getting the resistance out of yourself? Are you contracting your muscles? Are you making sure you're getting that flexing, right?
Are you getting the mind-body connection?
Yeah, so I mean that's like right now that's the biggest takeaway that I'm taking from that reading that book is like from here to my bicep.
Yeah.
Right? So how do I engage that?
And I would pose a question to you then, because we know what you're going through. So if you think about that in terms of you, and we know right now you have limited sensory perception to your right arm in its entirety, from the shoulder down to the fingers. So how are you kind of circumventing that to make sure you're getting that connection as fluidly as possible and really making sure that arm, because right now you have no feeling in it. The stimulus is just not there to give you feedback to the brain. So how are you kind of getting in between that?
Yeah, and I don't know if we told the folks this, but I have no feeling in my right arm whatsoever. Hot, cold, doesn't matter. So like
Since surgery.
So like I'm touching the table, I got nothing, right? So what I'm trying to focus on is how do I, and this is gonna sound dumb, but how do I wake it up? Right?
Yeah.
How do
it's not really dumb. I mean,
how do I wake it up? So anything that's involving my arms, and whether it's a squat or whether it's a press or whether it's a curl, I'm doing some warm-ups, right, to just really try to activate that shoulder, because that's where it's starting for me, you know. Chad's also got a massage ball in here, and so using that every once in a while to just kind of shock things in place.
Yep.
But
put some stimulus all the way down to the fingertips.
But like, let's talk about bench, right?
Yep.
So for bench, what I'm trying to do right now is, I know I'm losing that that touch or that motion. So it's like, all right, how do I keep everything else engaged? Because if I can get the muscle to remember how I'm doing it, maybe it's going to start firing for me.
Sure.
So it's using resistance bands even on my bench. So when I bring the bar off, right, it's trying to take the bar back to the J-cups. Right, so now it's really forcing me to engage, right?
It's forcing you to pull down.
Pull down. All right, and then for a flat bench, I've seen, I'm using a band around the wrist every now and then too. So as I'm coming down, right, it's forcing that external rotation, right? And so it's putting a little bit, I don't want to say pressure, but I'm feeling it in the shoulder, but not in a bad way where it's like, man, if there's 315 on the bar, you're going to blow it out.
Where you could feel if you were coming here.
If I'm not doing a great pressing motion and I'm coming up, I'm chicken winging it, right?
Yep.
I can actually feel that. Now, it's still a little struggle on like an incline bench, right? But more or less, I can actually feel what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fatigue that comes along with it. You're 4 or 5 reps in and it's like, all right, you're going slow, but now you have to slow it down even more because the fatigue sets in a lot quicker. I mean, for me, in my scenario, right?
No, absolutely.
And we were even this morning doing hack squats, right?
Yeah.
So doing hack squats, the first 3, I'm just going through the motion, and then this guy comes up, touches my butt. He's like, hey, let's do this the right way. I'm like, I don't know what that's about, but nonetheless. Are you engaging are you pulling down your lats? Are you engaging everything, right?
Gripping the hands,
right?
arms.
I said, okay, so that was like rep 3. So started doing that, and I could actually feel like, it's gonna sound weird, but if you're a weightlifter, you'll understand. I could feel the heat, right, or the sensation in my shoulder.
Yeah,
which I haven't felt, right? So like, it's definitely coming back, but it's just making sure I'm slowing down and not just going through the motions. Right. And how can I adjust what I'm doing? Hey, Chad, I'm gonna do a shoulder press today. I know on bench press, I'm using some bands. I'm using, some different methods to engage at what else can I do? And we're talking through that and giving me advice and just making sure that what I'm doing is activating and being safe for me.
Well, and so let's touch base on that, right? So the reason why these things works, banding your wrists, putting bands on the bar to pull backwards. telling you to squeeze your lats on a hack squat machine, right? Why are those things more beneficial? Well, we're activating the central nervous system, right? Which seemingly you're having a problem with since surgery. I mean, it's right in your central nervous system, spinal cord and brain. You had spinal surgery, so getting that more connected, right? Because if I was to have you squeeze your hand without squeezing anything else, and then I said, okay, squeeze your entire body, now squeeze your hand, your grip's going to be exponentially stronger because we're activating more of that central nervous system. It's telling the body to squeeze harder, right? So it's the same notion when we get into resistance training. And that's why really connecting mind-body in that aspect is beneficial, right? Because the more I can connect to that, I tell you guys all the time, it's not about the weight. I can make 5 pounds difficult for myself. It's about how I move the weight. And if you look traditionally across the board at Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be, the number one thing you see is like people going too fast, or like they've got to be these crazy exercises to be beneficial. And it's like, if you look traditionally at resistance training, the reason it works is because if you put it on video, it's actually boring. Right? It's the same 10, 12 lifts all the time and just trying to get better at those lifts, you know? And so I think when people look at resistance training, they think about that and they go, well, no, I just got to, you know, put weight on the bar and move it. And it's like, well, at a certain point, you know, if you're doing that, you're just going out of form. You're going too fast. You're doing all those things. And, you know, metabolically speaking, like I said, muscle takes more to maintain. You have to have all the protein, you have to have the calories. So if you're constantly just, you know, doing this old diet methodology of, you know, let's go do a 1 hour endurance cardiovascular class and then, you know, let me only eat 1,500 calories a day.
Feels like a personal shot there, but
you're just gonna be skinny fat, right? And I don't say that to be insulting by any means.
Well, and it's not even just skinny fat, dude. You're just gonna be miserable, right? I mean,
you're gonna be low energy. You're not gonna see those benefits come from the gym.
I mean, dude, honestly, I still don't think that I've recovered from 3 years ago when I was still doing 1,500 calories. Like, I still there's still days where I'm like, fuck, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And when I say recover, I mean mentally. Right? Like, I went about it in a way that I wish I would have done more research. I wish I would have found someone like you sooner, but you know, life is that way, right?
But here's the thing, man. It worked for what it worked for, right?
It got me to a point where I needed to go.
It got you to a point where you needed to go, but I think that's the thing, and I think Sal touches on this in the book as well, when he talks about, you know, if we need to, we can get you there. I can bottom the shit out of your calories. I get you there in 8 weeks. But you're not going to maintain that after that 8 weeks or after that 12 weeks. And I think that's
a good message he has.
It's a good message. Like, we as trainers, we can get you there. We can do whatever you want us to do. But we can do it in a healthful way or we can do it in an unhealthful way. And I think the closer... I'm not 25 anymore. I'm not 21 anymore. You're not 21 anymore. I mean, I'll be 39 next month. I'm closing the gap on 40. And so
old as fuck.
Old AF. But I think now I'm not so much focused on the burnout. I'm not focused on the, let me just kill myself and, you know, eat nothing and, you know, follow that methodology. Because, yes, should you be eating healthful most of the time? Absolutely. Eat to fuel the body in an appropriate way. But if you put shit fuel in the body, you're probably going to feel like crap. But on the flip side of that, that's not to say, like, if you go out and had a donut tomorrow, or let's say 2 donuts tomorrow, that's going to completely deter everything that you've been doing. Sometimes it does things that are counterintuitive to what we actually need it to do. Everybody's had, you know, a restless leg night or something like, and sometimes that can be from, I trained her legs really fucking hard and I didn't stretch. And then I just went to bed and my legs are like, no, dude, I'm still trying to move and I'm kicking microphones over here. But, you know, everything has to be, you know, mainstay a certain direction for you to build muscle. And that's why it's so hard. That's why it's the hardest thing to do, right? I commend anybody doing like bodybuilding and that kind of stuff, man, because that takes so much discipline. You fucking start cutting my carbs 12 weeks before a show. I hope that you handcuff me to a radiator because I'm going to murder somebody. Like, I don't even want to be involved at that point. Like, at that point, the part of your brain that starts to, malfunction when it doesn't have enough blood sugar.
Rational thoughts are out the window.
Like, yeah, I could totally burn my neighbor's house down. It'd be fine. Their dogs have been barking for 17 hours. Like, that's rational. And then you're like, no, wait a minute. Can't do that. That's not a thing. But now I want to so we've talked about resistance training between you and I, mm-hmm. dudes. Gentlemen, guys are usually better at resistance training because we're usually more focused on building muscle.
Yeah.
Right? Women will use the interchangeable term of toning, which I love this and I hate it all at the same time. So there is no such thing as toning muscle. You're building muscle or not building muscle. That's strictly it. And the biggest misconception with ladies, and we just had a fellow gym member who's a friend of ours as well send us a video. Oh, I just don't want to get bulky from this deadlift. And as soon as she lifts it, it interchanges with a guy in her outfit, and she's like, "Damn it!"
Yep.
That's just not how it happens. Ladies, you don't have enough testosterone in your body to produce massive amounts of muscle like that. Mm-hmm. Unless you're doing it synthetically. The outside of that is toning is muscle building. Ladies, you want to build muscle. You want to be strong, right? Your wife has been doing this. Yep. My wife does this. You want to be strong, right? Because I don't care what you weigh, right? And Sal talks about this. How did he used to sell training to female clients? He'd call his female trainer in. Well, how much do you think she weighs? Oh my God, she looks great. She must weigh only 115 pounds.
Not even close.
Nope, she weighs 140 pounds. She's just dense as shit. She looks like a brick shit house. But that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Ladies have to have the same mentality as quote unquote men do in the gym, and it's building muscle. Mm-hmm. Because you build that muscle, you're gonna look smaller.
Yeah.
Things are going to fit differently because you have more muscle on your body, not because you weigh less. Yeah. You could be 140 pounds and look like you weigh 120. It's a body fat percentage thing.
Absolutely. That's tough for, and not calling out the women in our lives because, I've got a lot of them. But I think it's harder for women because they look at that scale number. And that scale number, okay, what is that telling you?
Well, I think it's harder because of the social perception.
That as well. Right?
You're right.
I think
both of us are being fed that now. I think men and women are being fed that now.
Oh, 100%.
Because if I don't have a six-pack of abs 24/7, and ladies, if they're not petite and dainty looking, then you're not, beautiful or whatever it may be.
If you look at what the world deems as like peak physical or peak social beauty, right? It's completely different than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, you look at some people back in history and we deem them as the most beautiful person ever. It's like they're not, right?
Yeah.
But we live under the social construct that you have to look a certain way, you have to weigh a certain way, you have to do this.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You just have to be happy with yourself.
You just have to be happy with yourself, and I think I always like to tell people the notion of how even compliments and insults are perceived. Mm-hmm. So, like, if someone came up to me and said, "Man, Chad, you're looking skinny today, bro. Looking good." It's just that skinny, man. Like, you might as well have just thrown a spear right through my chest. Yeah. And for me, that's an insult. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rather someone come up to me and say, "Man, you look fit. You look healthy. You look strong." Yep. When someone says, "You look skinny," like, I immediately go back to that 128-pound kid, and I'm like, motherfucker. Like, okay, now I've got to go work harder. Like, it's that psychological aspect of it. And I think it's the same when someone calls you fat or, because even perceptually, I think fat is different too. I mean, if someone says you're looking a little big today, mm-hmm. Well, what does that mean? Because it can mean one of two things.
Yeah.
It can mean I look big, muscular, or I look big, and then I'm thinking like, oh, I did have Subway for lunch. Did I? I like put on a couple pounds since lunch.
Did
Like,
I not count every grain of rice before I ate it? Fuck.
So I think that's part of it too, man. It's this perceptual nature that strength training is only for the dumb meatheads.
And it's not.
And it's not. I mean, I know some very, very smart people that are weightlifters. And outside of being weightlifters, they're engineers and, you know, scientists and all these other kind of things. So I think that, you know, that's kind of a bad takeaway. But I think it's harder for women. I think they're thrown in their face all day long, perceptually, that beauty and health are the same thing. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow. Because I sent you a video a couple weeks ago about that, and it's a larger gentleman. He's like, you know, talking about being overweight. Yeah. And he's like, you know, we don't die from hang gliding. We don't die from hiking. We don't die because we got hit by a car. He's like, we die because we like syrup. Yeah. And we dip fat in fat, you know.
He calls himself out, you know.
He calls himself out. And
the comment section there, like, they're all bashed him, like, you know, you're supposed to be part of the community, blah, blah. He's like, this isn't a community. This is a disease that we need to work on, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, he was, because I watched the video and then I looked at the comments, and the guy was very, I mean, he was point blank, like, no,
let's change the conversation.
Yeah, you know.
And I think, but I think the great thing that he said in there, he's like, we keep thinking that beauty and health are in the same box.
They're not.
He's like, that's great that you feel good about yourself, Cheryl, that your makeup was on point and you had a really nice blouse on, but that doesn't also mean that you're healthy.
Well, and on the other side of the spectrum, you know, we're nerds, right? So we talk about X-Men, we talk about whatever. Dude, talk about Hugh Jackman and Wolverine.
Yeah.
The guy was starving himself, right?
Well, not initially, though.
Not initially.
You know, 5,000 calories a day to pack on 50 pounds of muscle.
He had to get all that muscle. And then he was trying to just dropping the calories out to maintain it, right?
Yeah. Trying to stay cut, yeah. Right?
You know, I mean, even when we were talking to Brandon talks about his competitions and whatnot, you know, certain date from the competition, he starts drawing back, right? Yeah. I'm not saying that's not unhealthy, right? The guy knows what he's doing. Like, obviously. But for some folks, that wouldn't work for them, right? That could lead to further problems.
Well, and it's just like Tom Cruise on the set of Maverick, where, you know, they're shooting that football scene on the beach, and like for weeks everybody had gone low carb trying to stay cut and ripped up because we got to film this scene. So they film it, they get it all done, they're like, yeah, wrap, I can go eat some donuts. You know, Miles Teller and all these guys that are half, you know, Tom Cruise's age. Well, joke's on them because Tom didn't like the clip, and he's like, hey guys, we're gonna reshoot that. And they're like, fuck you, motherfucker. Like, because, you know, Tom, for his age, you know, he's still staying pretty cut up.
Top of his game.
They're already like back to eating donuts and stuff, thinking that the rest of the shoots are going to be in full gear, and like, oh man, no, I didn't like how that looked the other day. We're gonna have to go ahead and shoot that again. But I think that's the thing, man. You know, you look at that across the board, and again, we haven't separated health, beauty as two separate categories, right? Because I tell you all the time, you know, we can focus on aesthetic, but that may never lead to good health. Yeah. And I'm saying that to say, like, I'm not just telling, you know, because you're overweight that you're unhealthy. No, they could be the other way around too. You can be doing too much to be focused on aesthetic and still be unhealthy. And that's the connotation. It goes both ways, right? Nobody's kind of driving down the middle of the road and saying, hey guys, you know, making sure you have balance in your life is more important than going way too hard or not hard at all.
So that's key, right? That word right there, balance. It's not, hey, you're overweight, you're going to die immediately unless we 100% just drop out all the calories. We get you in the gym 5 days a week at, you know, 90 minutes a pop. No, hey, yeah, you're overweight. Let's sit down. Let's talk through it. Let's figure out where I can meet you and get you to a point where you start feeling healthy. Yeah. Vice versa for the person that, you know, is on the other spectrum, that's in the gym 6-7 days a week, that's in there for
2-3 hours at a time. Yeah.
Hey man, how you feeling? This hurts, that hurts, blah blah blah. You know, it's
stiff all the time.
All right, well, let's talk through some of these lists. Let's talk through what you got going on. Let's look at your programming, right? So it's not, and we're not picking on one person versus another person, right?
Yeah, it's not a one size fit all.
Two different body types, right? Completely, right? but we're still in here trying to reach the end goal, which is to be healthier and to be mobile for as long as possible.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, I mean, that's the best thing about resistance training is it doesn't matter where you're at in your process. It's the best thing for you. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
because you're going to lose
the best thing for me, right?
Well, but for anybody, because you're going to lose muscle mass as we age. You know, as you get older and older, the percent, it's called sarcolemma. Mm-hmm. That's the genetic loss of muscle. Now, that doesn't take into account any atrophy. Atrophy is muscle loss due to inactivity.
Yeah.
Someone in a coma, they will have massive amounts of atrophy depending on how long they were in that coma. But if you take, it starts mildly over the age of 30. By the time you reach 50, I mean, even if you're active, you're probably losing genetically probably somewhere along the lines of a few percent of muscle mass every year. Mm-hmm. So the more you stop weight training and the more you kind of divulge yourself into just taking it easy, as we call it in America, you start to lose even more muscle mass and gain more fat mass. And now you're just woefully unhealthy because now you don't have any muscles to hold your body together, right? And you're seeing kind of a shift in that. You're seeing a shift in older adults getting into weight training and they're maintaining that muscle mass. I mean, we've all seen the videos on TikTok and Instagram of the 90-year-old lady deadlifting 135 pounds and you're like, hell yeah, dude, that's fucking awesome.
That's where I want to be when I'm freaking 70.
But, dialing back to what we started on is why is resistance training king? When we always go back to that metabolic factor, you should be able to eat more. Mm-hmm. There's nothing saying that we should all be on 2,000 calorie diets, 1,600 calorie diets. Yes, there is thermodynamics, but there's also how can I build muscle if I don't have enough gas in the tank? If I don't have enough glycogen, if I don't have enough protein, if I don't have enough of these things to actually build muscle, how can I maintain it? It's the reason why The Rock can eat 5,000 to 8,000 calories a day. He's a brick shit house.
Yeah.
He's got all that muscle mass to maintain. The moment he would start to eat less, his body's going to offload some muscle because it can't maintain it. It has to. And so, and not to say that that's the way to go either, because, I don't have The Rock's budget. So eat 150 pounds of fish a year, I'm like, I don't got it. Like, that's a lot of fish. Fish ain't cheap.
Oh, man. Yeah, I wish I had his budget.
Yeah, no shit. I mean,
way better camera right there.
Like, my dude is like training super hard, but then like he can go eat like the best meals. Like, it's what, 9:20. He's probably eaten 3 times already by now. 2
workouts in, whatever it is.
Oh, the life. But that's why I say that's where resistance training to me is king. Mm-hmm. Because you should be able to eat more food. To live in depletion and quote unquote counting calories every day of every second of your life, that sounds sucky.
Yeah.
I would rather just know what I need to eat and be able to eat, right? I think a good rule of thumb is don't eat 2 bad meals in a row. Yeah. So don't go have McDonald's for lunch and then, order pizza for dinner. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
But if I'm on the road and I happen to have McDonald's for lunch, okay, when I get home, I'm going to have some vegetables, some lean meat, some rice, maybe a starch, potatoes. I'm going to try to balance it out. Yeah. And as I tell you guys, always make it fit the math. Because then you can modify to when I do go out to eat. I went out to eat last night. I had Penang curry from a Thai restaurant here. Rice, peppers, I think it was peas, and they put peas in their curry for some reason. That's a new one for me. Then your curry and chicken.
Yeah.
Now, I ate pretty modest the bulk of the day preparing for that meal because it's probably, I'm not cooking it, so it's probably a little heavier in calories than what I would eat at home.
Yep.
But, I still got to enjoy it. And that's the bigger part. And it didn't deter me from building muscle. It didn't take anything away from me.
That's the key, man. You got to enjoy life still, right? Like, live within your means, enjoy the life. And try to do what you can to maintain that balance, And that's why this book, The Resistance Revolution, it's very eye-opening on just what you have already, educated me on.
Yeah.
Right? So, we're going on vacation here in March, going down to Gulf
4 or
Shores.
5 weeks here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I already told Holly, I said, this would be a great book for us to listen together, because I think it's got a lot of great things in here. And I mean, she's on her fitness journey still, but it's like you say, man, like, you still got to live. Don't have 2 bad meals in a row. Like, It's not the end of the world.
And as a dude, I mean, realistically, if you're anywhere between like 10 and 15% body fat, that's pretty good walk around, man. Like, you can see a little bit of striation, a little bit of ab. And then, if you want to like ramp it up towards vacation, then you modify some things and you get that good, cut looked feeling, and you might get down to some single digits. And I think everybody should try.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, push your body a little harder. Try to get to single digits.
See what it's made of.
It's extremely difficult, right? But acknowledge the difficult so that you know what it feels like to have both, to push yourself that hard and to have the enjoyment. Because I'll be honest, man, I don't think I've pushed my body fat percentage wise for anything. My wedding, a vacation, whatever. I don't think I've pushed it to that extent yet. So I don't know what that feels like. But my wife has.
Yeah.
My wife did a show. I mean, she looked phenomenal. But like, she always compares back to that. And I'm like, but it's different though. Because you push your body to here, and then, over the last 5 years, like, she's changed jobs several times, and, all these life things have happened. So your training schedule got off, your eating schedule got off. But you took yourself to the upper echelon already. Like, your body like knows what that stimulus feels like. And I was like, but you wouldn't want to eat like that every day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had broccoli and fish today. So good. I ate it 4 times today for 7 days. I don't want to kill myself, I promise. And it's like, you're eating that depleted. Like, yeah, you have that feeling of like, God, this sucks. So that's a thing too. Brandon knows what it's like to push his body to the pinnacle of peak fitness, right? And peak striation. He's told me he's cramped up on stage before. Go to hit a pose. Okay, no. Tried it again. Nope, cramped again. Walked off the stage. I'm like, you just walked off? He said, yeah, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it, so I just walked the fuck off.
Not wasting my time up here, man.
I'm wasting my time up here. So I think that's the thing too, man. Like, yes, every once in a while, maybe push your body a little over hard to know what it's like, right? To know what it's like to push your body that hard, and then acknowledge that your regular work is still pretty good, right? Your walk around. If I walk around at 12% body fat, I'm okay with that. No big deal. I still, am in the. God, I think if you look at the scale, I think that's still like the upper. Or the lower end of body fat percentages, where you're almost at athlete essentially.
Yeah.
So I think that you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I agree, man.
So I think we'll wrap it up there, man. I think that's a good hit on resistance training. So guys, if you haven't checked out the Resistance Training Revolution, it is an audiobook. If you have Spotify, it's on there for free. It's a great listen. Tons of good information and facts on there. But guys, if you take away anything, gals, if you take away anything, resistance training will help keep you young, will help it so you can eat those foods that you want, in moderation when you want to. And it's not going to deter anything. Resistance training truly does have the longevity benefit that cardiovascular training does not independently of itself.
Yeah, and if you don't want to take a couple of guys from Iowa, take our word for it, go out and listen to the book.
Go out and listen to the book.
There's all kinds of statistics in there. There's sources. There's a lot of research. It's not just us spewing, out of our ass. There's a lot of great information there for you.
Yep. And if that doesn't get you, listen to their podcast. Mind Pump is great.
Yeah.
They have tons of, people on there that are bridging the gap between biohacking and improving the human body to ways that we've never thought of before. And and in a helpful way, not in super ideological, tribalistic ways. They're doing it in very scientific, very laid out ways and doing the research. So definitely check out the Resistance Revolution. Check out Mind Pump. Continue listening to these two fools over here. Hopefully you guys are taking something away from this, and we'll see you guys next week. And actually, I got a little trip coming up myself here, so I'm gonna head out of town for a little bit, get some diffusing going, go do some nerd stuff at MegaCon down in Orlando. So on the flip side, guys, make sure you like, follow, share, subscribe. And just remember the number one rule around here: just don't die.
And just don't suck.
Thanks, guys.